The price of peace. The Galactic Assembly's Grand Chamber hummed with nervous energy as Ambassador Sarah Chen approached the podium. Hundreds of alien delegates watched in tense silence as the holographic displays flickered to life, showing the devastation of the Proxima colony. The human diplomat's face remained composed, but her knuckles whitened as she gripped the edges of the ancient marble rostrum. For the third time in as many cycles, I stand before this assembly to present evidence of Valkyrie aggression against peaceful settlements, she began, her voice steady despite the gravity of the situation. And for the third time, I implore this body to act. The massive chamber, carved from an asteroid at the heart of neutral space, filled with murmurs. The Valkyrie representative, Commander Zaxthar, merely smiled, his crystalline teeth glinting under the chamber's artificial light. His species had spent centuries building their empire through conquest, and few dared to challenge them openly. The human colony at Proxima Centauri was a scientific outpost. Sarah continued, advancing through the holographic images. 3,000 researchers, their families, and support staff. They had no military value, no strategic importance. Their only crime was existing on a world the Valkyrie decided they wanted. The images showed the aftermath. Research facilities reduced to rubble, hydroponics domes shattered, and the eerie silence of a world stripped of life. The Valkyrie's energy weapons had been thorough, leaving nothing but scorched earth and bitter memories. The human confederation has exhibited patience, Sarah said, her words measured. We've built our reputation in this galaxy through innovation, trade, and diplomacy. When the Valkyrie destroyed our mining operations in the Ta-CD system, we sought negotiation. When they raided our merchant vessels near the Arcturus stream, we requested arbitration. But this, she paused, letting the images speak for themselves. This crosses a line. Commander Zaxthar rose, his towering frame casting a shadow across his section of the chamber. The humans speak of lines crossed, yet they colonize worlds on the edges of our expansion zones. They knew the risks. The strong take what they want. This has always been the way of the galaxy. Sarah's expression didn't change, but something shifted in her eyes. The other delegates, well-versed in reading human micro-expressions after centuries of diplomatic relations, sensed the change. The Arthosian representative, an insectoid being known for their empathic abilities, shifted uncomfortably in their seat. "Is that truly what you believe, Commander?" Sarah asked, her voice taking on a different tone, one that made several elder delegates exchange worried glances. "That strength justifies any action. That peace is merely a weakness to be exploited." The Valkyrie commander spread his arms, his ceremonial armor catching the light. "Look at your history, human. Your species spent millennia fighting amongst themselves. You perfected the art of war long before you reached the stars. Yet now you hide behind words and treaties, pretending to be something you're not. Perhaps it's time you remembered what you truly are." A heavy silence fell over the chamber. The delegates who had known humanity the longest, who had studied their history, felt a chill run through their various physiologies. They remembered the stories, the classified reports, the warnings passed down through generations. Never mistake humanity's love of peace for weakness. Sarah straightened, her voice carrying to every corner of the chamber. "You speak of our history, Commander, but you understand so little of it. We don't choose peace because we're weak. We choose it because we know, better than any species in this galaxy, exactly what we're capable of when peace fails." She turned to address the entire assembly. "The Human Confederation formally requests one final round of diplomatic negotiations with the Valkyrie Empire to be mediated by this body. We will present our terms: immediate withdrawal from human space, reparations for the Proxima colony, and guarantees of non-aggression." Commander Zaxthar laughed, the sound echoing off the chamber's ancient walls. "And if we refuse?" Sarah's next words carried a weight that silenced even the Valkyrie's mirth. "Then you will learn why we fight so hard for peace, Commander. Not because we fear war, but because we fear what we become when we wage it." She gathered her materials, preparing to leave the podium. You believe you understand strength, Commander. You believe you understand war. But pray you never have to understand humanity when peace is no longer an option. As Sarah left the chamber, the other delegates began urgent discussions among themselves. They had all heard the stories of humanity's past conflicts, of the ingenuity and determination they brought to warfare, but none had ever seen it firsthand. The Arthosian representative, watching the Valkyrie commander's dismissive expression, wondered if they were about to witness why humans had spent centuries ensuring they never had to show that side of themselves again. The next day, the Valkyrie Empire formally rejected the Human Confederation's terms. As news spread across the galaxy, many species began moving their assets away from human space. They remembered an old saying among the diplomatic corps: humanity's greatest achievement isn't that they mastered space travel, but that they learned to cage the monster within themselves. Pray you never force them to open that cage. Breaking point. Admiral Elena Reyes stood at the viewport of the TSS Hyperion, watching the emergency beacon's transmissions with growing horror. The Valkyrie hadn't just attacked another colony. They'd targeted New Eden, humanity's largest settlement outside the Sol system, home to 12 million civilians. The holographic displays around her showed the devastation in real time. The Valkyrie had bypassed the outer defense grid using technology they'd stolen from raided human vessels. They'd struck in the middle of the night, when most of the population was asleep. The colony's emergency shelters had activated, but they weren't designed to withstand this level of assault. Admiral, her XO, Commander David Chen, approached with a data tablet. The civilian evacuation is at 60%. The Valkyrie fleet is maintaining orbital bombardment of the major cities. Ground forces are. He hesitated. They're executing survivors, sir. Elena's fingers traced the brass insignia on her uniform, the dove and olive branch of the Human Confederation Navy. For centuries, it had been a symbol of peace, of protection. Now it felt like a mockery. Get me fleet command, she ordered, her voice carrying the weight of generations of military discipline. The quantum communications array hummed to life, projecting the image of Fleet Admiral Harrison. Elena. Harrison's hologram flickered with static. I assume you've seen the feeds from New Eden. Yes, sir. Request permission to engage. Harrison's expression was grim. The Security Council is still in emergency session. The diplomatic corps believes there might be one last chance for. Sir, Elena interrupted, something she'd never done in 30 years of service. They're killing children. The silence that followed stretched like a drawn wire. Both officers knew what was at stake. The Human Confederation had maintained peace through diplomacy and deterrence for centuries. Breaking that peace wouldn't just mean war. It would mean unleashing everything they'd held back. The Valkyrie must believe we'll keep trying to negotiate, Harrison finally said. They've never seen us fight. Not really. They think our restraint is weakness. He straightened, his decision made. You have authorization, Admiral Reyes. Show them why we choose peace. Elena turned to her crew, each member representing the best of humanity's military tradition. They'd trained for war while praying they'd never need to fight one. That time was over. All hands to battle stations, she commanded. Deploy the Prometheus protocol. Throughout the ship, hidden compartments opened. Weapons systems that had been theorized but never used came online. The Hyperion's neural interface, normally used for navigation and routine operations, expanded its capabilities. The ship wasn't just a vessel anymore. It was becoming something the galaxy had never seen. Sir, Commander Chen reported, the Prometheus protocol is active. All ships in the fleet are reporting ready. Elena watched as her ship transformed. The Prometheus protocol was humanity's darkest secret, the culmination of centuries of warfare and technological advancement, kept hidden behind their peaceful facade. Every human vessel carried it, locked away behind layers of security, a reminder of what they could become if pushed too far. Signal the fleet, she ordered. All ships execute jump protocols. Target, New Eden orbital space. The quantum drive spooled up, its hum rising to a crescendo. As the fleet prepared to jump, Alina thought about Ambassador Chen's warning to the Valkyrie. They had chosen this. They had mistaken humanity's dedication to peace for weakness, their restraint for cowardice. Fleet Command confirms, Commander Chen announced. First wave ready for jump in 3, 2, 1. The universe bent around them as 30 human warships, each now transformed by protocols their enemies didn't know existed, tore into New Eden's space. The Valkyrie fleet, still bombarding the surface, had no warning. On board their command ship, Supreme Commander Zaxthar was celebrating their victory when the alerts began. His tactical officer's crystalline face showed confusion, then fear. Supreme Commander, the officer reported, multiple quantum signatures detected. Energy readings. This can't be right. They're using technology we've never seen before. Zaxthar moved to the tactical display, his confidence unwavering. Show me. The display came alive with data that defied their understanding. The human ships weren't just warships. They were something else entirely. Each vessel pulsed with energy signatures that shouldn't have been possible, their hulls rippling with transformative technologies that had been hidden from the galaxy. Supreme Commander, his second-in-command, whispered, "They've been holding back. All this time." Before Zaxthar could respond, the human fleet opened fire. But they didn't use conventional weapons. Instead, targeted quantum fields began disrupting the very space around Valkyrie ships. Some vessels found their weapon systems reconfiguring themselves, molecular structures shifting into useless configurations. Others discovered their shields being bypassed completely, as if the laws of physics themselves had been rewritten in localized bubbles around their ships. Admiral Rice watched the first engagement with cold precision. "Target their command ship," she ordered. "Let them see exactly what they've awakened." The Hyperion's main weapon, hidden beneath layers of peaceful technology, powered up. It wasn't designed to destroy. That would have been too simple, too crude for what humanity had become. Instead, it reached into the quantum fabric of space-time itself, implementing theories of warfare that the Valkyrie had never imagined possible. As the weapon fired, Zaxthar watched his mighty warship begin to transform around him, its very structure being rewritten at the quantum level. In that moment, he finally understood Ambassador Chen's warning. Humanity hadn't chosen peace because they were weak. They had chosen it because they had evolved beyond conventional warfare into something far more terrifying. The battle for New Eden was about to teach the galaxy why humanity had worked so hard to avoid showing their true capabilities. The monster wasn't just awakening. It had been evolving, hidden behind centuries of peaceful progress, waiting for the moment when peace was no longer an option. The art of war. The footage from New Eden spread across the galaxy like a shockwave. Species that had dismissed humanity as passive observers now watched in stunned silence as the truth of their capabilities unfolded. The Arthosian information networks had captured everything. The transformation of human ships, the reality warping weapons, and the complete dismantling of the mighty Valkyrie fleet. In the Galactic Assembly's emergency session, the chamber that had once hosted diplomatic pleasantries now crackled with fear and fascination. The Valkyrie delegation was notably absent, but their allies watched the holographic replays with growing dread. First Speaker Catal of the Meridian Concordat rose to address the assembly. "What we have witnessed is beyond our understanding of warfare. The humans didn't just defeat the Valkyrie. They rewrote the rules of combat itself. In deeper space, the war expanded. The Valkyrie, reeling from their defeat at New Eden, but driven by pride and desperation, launched simultaneous attacks on 3 human frontier worlds. They believed that spreading the human fleet thin would give them an advantage. They were wrong. Admiral Rice stood on the Hyperion's bridge, coordinating humanity's response. The neural interface hummed around her head, connecting her directly to the quantum battlefield that space had become. "The Valkyrie still think in terms of conventional warfare," she explained to her command staff. "They see space as a 3-dimensional battlefield, We see it as a quantum canvas. The displays showed human ships at each besieged world, but they weren't fighting in ways anyone had expected. Instead of meeting the Valkyrie fleets head-on, they were transforming space itself into a weapon. At Kepler 186f, a single human vessel designated Archimedes faced off against 30 Valkyrie warships. The enemy commanders laughed at what they perceived as human hubris. Their laughter died when the Archimedes activated its primary system. Space folded. The quantum fabric between the Valkyrie ships began to twist, creating localized pockets where the laws of physics operated differently. Weapons fire curved back on itself. Shield harmonics destabilized as fundamental forces shifted. The Valkyrie found themselves fighting not just the human ship, but reality itself. "This is why we chose peace," Commander Chen observed, watching the battle unfold. "Not because we couldn't fight, but because we had evolved beyond what others considered possible. We had to hold back, or we would have changed everything." In the Valkyrie Empire's central command, Supreme Warlord Kexnar received the reports with growing horror. His species had conquered dozens of star systems through conventional superiority. But this was something else entirely. How long? He demanded of his science council. How long have the humans possessed these capabilities? The head scientist, her crystalline form dimmed with worry, responded, "Based on our analysis, they've had this technology for at least a century. Every human ship we've encountered, every peaceful vessel we've raided, they all had this potential hidden within them. They chose not to use it." Kexnar's throne room fell silent. The implications were staggering. Humanity hadn't just developed advanced technology. They had fundamentally changed their approach to warfare itself. Back on the Hyperion, Admiral Rice received a priority communication from Fleet Command. The quantum display showed Fleet Admiral Harrison's grim expression. "The Valkyrie have begun attacking civilian targets across 3 sectors," he reported. "They're trying to force us to spread our forces thin." Elena's expression hardened. "They still don't understand. Permission to implement Phase 2. Harrison nodded slowly. "Granted. Show them why we feared becoming this." Phase 2 wasn't just another military protocol. It was the full implementation of theories that humanity had developed but never dared to use. The quantum drives of every human ship began to synchronize, creating a network that spanned light years. In the Arthosian observation posts, sensors recorded something unprecedented. The human ships weren't just coordinating. They were linking their quantum fields, turning vast sectors of space into interconnected domains where they held absolute control over fundamental forces. The Valkyrie fleets found their advantages in numbers and firepower becoming meaningless. Their ships entered these quantum domains only to discover that the very principles they relied on, gravity, electromagnetic forces, strong and weak nuclear interactions, could be altered at will by the human vessels controlling these spaces. "This is not warfare as we know it," First Speaker K'tal addressed the assembly again. "The humans haven't just mastered technology. They've mastered the underlying fabric of space-time itself. All these centuries, we thought they were holding back out of weakness. Now we understand they were holding back out of wisdom." A junior Valkyrie commander, watching his mighty dreadnought become trapped in a pocket of space where their weapons couldn't function, sent a final transmission before his ship's quantum signature was erased from existence. "They are not warriors. They are not soldiers. They are architects of reality itself, and we were fools to mistake their restraint for weakness." As the battles continued across multiple sectors, the galaxy began to understand the true meaning of humanity's dedication to peace. They hadn't spent centuries avoiding war because they couldn't fight. They had done so because they knew that once they fought with their full capabilities, warfare itself would never be the same. Admiral Reyes, watching the quantum networks expand across space, fought back to humanity's long history of conflict. They had evolved beyond the crude warfare of their past, beyond even the advanced technology of their present. They had become something that their ancestors could never have imagined. Beings who could reshape reality itself, yet chose to pursue peace until peace was no longer an option. The art of war, as humanity now practiced it, wasn't about destruction, it was about transcendence, and the galaxy was only beginning to understand what that meant. Echoes of humanity. In the quantum-altered spaces of former Valkyrie territory, reality itself bore witness to humanity's power. Ships that had once proudly carried the Valkyrie banner now drifted in zones where conventional physics no longer applied, their crews trapped in pockets of altered spacetime where moments stretched into eternities. Supreme Warlord Kexnar stood in his command center on Valkyrie Prime, watching the feeds from their frontier worlds. The reports flooding in didn't just speak of defeat, they spoke of fundamental change. His people, who had always defined themselves through martial prowess, now faced an enemy that had transformed the very nature of combat. "Show me the prisoner interviews," he commanded, his crystalline form dulled with stress. The holographic displays flickered to life, showing Valkyrie warriors who had been rescued from the quantum domains. Their eyes held a look that no Valkyrie had ever seen before. Pure, existential terror. "The humans," one warrior spoke, his voice trembling. "They don't just control space and time. They control perception itself. In their quantum fields, I lived 1,000 lifetimes. I saw every possible outcome of our war. Every death, every victory, every defeat, all at once. They made us experience the futility of conflict across infinite possibilities." In the Galactic Assembly, Ambassador Chen addressed the gathered representatives. The chamber, once filled with diplomatic pleasantries, now held a heavy silence. The human diplomat's words carried the weight of centuries of restrained power. "We didn't develop these capabilities for war," she explained, her voice echoing through the vast chamber. "We developed them because we needed to understand the universe itself. Our mastery of quantum mechanics, our ability to alter fundamental forces, these were meant to be tools for exploration, for understanding. We turned them to warfare only because you left us no choice." The Arthosian representative, their compound eyes reflecting the holographic displays of altered space, spoke next. "But why hide these abilities? Why maintain the facade of conventional technological development?" Sarah's expression softened slightly. "Because we remembered our own history. On Earth, every major technological advancement was eventually turned to warfare. We couldn't let that happen with these discoveries. We knew that once we revealed our true capabilities, the nature of conflict would change forever. That's why we worked so hard for peace, not to avoid war, but to avoid changing the fundamental nature of existence itself." Meanwhile, aboard the Hyperion, Admiral Rice received a priority communication from one of her quantum field specialists. "Admiral," the young officer reported, "we're detecting something unexpected in the altered spaces. The Valkyrie trapped there. Their consciousness is being affected in ways we didn't anticipate." Elena accessed the data through her neural interface. The quantum fields weren't just changing physical reality. They were affecting the very way their enemies perceived existence. The Valkyrie weren't just experiencing military defeat. They were experiencing a fundamental shift in their understanding of reality itself. "This is why the ancients feared knowledge," she murmured. "Not because of what it could destroy, but because of how it could change everything we thought we knew." Deep in Valkyrie space, on worlds that had never known defeat, the population began to change. Those who had experienced the quantum fields returned change, their warrior ethos replaced by a deep, philosophical uncertainty. They spoke of experiencing multiple timelines simultaneously, of seeing the interconnectedness of all things, of understanding war and peace, not as opposites, but as part of a greater quantum whole. The Valkyrie High Command, watching their society's warrior culture unravel, faced a terrible realization. Humanity hadn't just defeated them militarily. They had inadvertently begun a cultural and philosophical revolution that threatened the very foundations of Valkyrie civilization. "We're receiving mass surrenders across all sectors," Commander Chen reported to Admiral Rice. "But it's strange. They're not just laying down arms. They're asking for teachers, For philosophers, they want to understand what they've experienced in the quantum fields. Elena closed her eyes, feeling the weight of unintended consequences. We didn't just show them our power, she realized. We showed them a new way of seeing existence itself. The quantum fields didn't just trap their ships, they expanded their consciousness. In the depths of space, where the quantum fields still rippled with human influence, reality itself seemed to hum with new possibility. The Valkyrie who emerged from these spaces spoke of a transformation deeper than defeat, more profound than surrender. They had glimpsed the true nature of existence through humanity's lens, and they could never return to their old ways of thinking. Ambassador Chen, receiving the reports of mass philosophical awakening among the Valkyrie, shared a knowing look with her staff. "This is why we chose peace for so long," she said softly. "Not because we couldn't win a war, but because victory through these means would change everything. Not just for our enemies, but for the very fabric of galactic society." The galaxy watched in amazement as the mighty Valkyrie Empire, undefeated for centuries, underwent not just a military defeat, but a fundamental transformation. Their warrior culture, faced with the reality-altering power of human quantum technology, began to evolve into something entirely new. The very concepts of war and peace, victory and defeat, began to take on new meanings in a universe where reality itself could be reshaped by human understanding. And in the quantum-altered spaces that now mark the boundaries of former Valkyrie territory, the echoes of humanity's power continued to ripple through space and time, changing not just the physical laws of the universe, but the very way sentient beings understood their place within it. The weight of victory. 1 year after the quantum fields first rippled across Valkyrie space, the Galactic Assembly convened for a historic session. The Great Chamber, witness to countless diplomatic exchanges, now hosted something unprecedented: the formal surrender and transformation of the Valkyrie Empire. Supreme Warlord Kexnar, once the embodiment of Valkyrie martial pride, approached the central podium. His crystalline form, once polished to military perfection, now bore the subtle patterns of philosophical contemplation. The entire galaxy watched as he faced Ambassador Chen. "We fought you because we thought we understood power," he began, his voice carrying none of its former aggression. "We saw your dedication to peace as weakness, your reluctance to fight as fear. We were wrong in ways we couldn't have imagined." The assembled delegates listened in rapt attention as Kexnar continued. "In your quantum fields, we experienced not just defeat, but enlightenment. We saw the interconnectedness of all things, the infinite possibilities that exist in every moment. Our understanding of existence itself has been transformed." Admiral Rice, watching from the Hyperion, felt the weight of this victory. The quantum drive hummed softly around her ship, no longer a weapon, but once again a tool of exploration and understanding. Her neural interface showed her the status of the former combat zones. Spaces where reality had been altered were slowly returning to normal, but the changes in the beings who had experienced them were permanent. "The Valkyrie are requesting something unprecedented," Commander Chen reported, reviewing the latest diplomatic transmissions. "They want to transform their military academies into centers for quantum research and philosophical study. They're asking for human teachers." Elena smiled sadly. "We didn't just end their empire. We gave them a new purpose. Sometimes victory means more than defeating an enemy. Sometimes it means transforming them into something better than they were." In the assembly chamber, Ambassador Chen rose to respond to Kexnar's speech. The human diplomat, who had once warned of humanity's hidden power, now spoke of responsibility and guidance. "The knowledge we revealed in our defense wasn't meant to be a weapon," she explained. "It was meant to expand understanding, to explore the true nature of reality. Now that this knowledge has been unleashed, we bear the responsibility of helping others understand it." The galaxy was changing. Species that had once viewed warfare as a simple matter of ships, weapons, and tactics now grappled with humanity's demonstration of deeper truths. The quantum fields had shown that reality itself was more complex, more interconnected than anyone had imagined. First Speaker Catal addressed the assembly. "We have all been humbled. We thought we understood the nature of power, of conflict, of existence itself. The humans showed us how little we knew. Their victory wasn't just in defeating the Valkyrie. It was in showing us all a new way of seeing the universe." In the former Valkyrie territories, a remarkable transformation was taking place. Warrior clans that had once trained for combat now gathered to study quantum mechanics and philosophy. Their crystalline cities, once designed for war, were being reshaped into centers of learning and contemplation. A young Valkyrie scholar, speaking to a human quantum physicist, expressed what many of his people now felt. "We thought we were strong because we could destroy. You showed us we were limited because that's all we could do." True power lies not in changing the physical universe, but in understanding it deeply enough to see all its possibilities. The Human Confederation began the process of deactivating their quantum warfare systems, returning their ships to their primary purpose of exploration and discovery. But the knowledge they had revealed could not be hidden again. The galaxy had glimpsed the true nature of reality through human eyes, and that glimpse had changed everything. Admiral Rice stood in the observation dome of the Hyperion, watching the quantum fields finally dissipate from the last battle zones. Commander Chen joined her, carrying final status reports. "The last of the altered spaces has returned to normal," he reported. "But the changes in the people who experienced them, those will last forever." Elena nodded. Perhaps that was the true purpose of all this. Not to win a war, but to help the galaxy take its next step in understanding reality itself. In the assembly chamber, Ambassador Chen concluded the historic session with words that would be remembered for generations. "We chose peace for centuries not because we feared war, but because we understood that our power came with a responsibility. Now that this knowledge is shared, we all bear that responsibility together. The universe is far more wonderful and strange than any of us imagined, and we have only begun to understand its true nature." The Galactic Assembly established a new council dedicated to the responsible study and application of quantum understanding. Representatives from all species, including the transformed Valkyrie, would work together to explore the possibilities humanity had revealed. As ships from across the galaxy gathered for the inaugural ceremony of the new Quantum Understanding Initiative, Admiral Rice reflected on the true meaning of their victory. They had won not by destroying their enemy, but by showing them, and the entire galaxy, a greater truth about the nature of existence itself. The monster humanity had feared becoming had instead become a teacher, showing the way to a deeper understanding of reality. Their power had not corrupted them. It had given them the means to elevate others to a new level of consciousness. As the ceremony concluded, a message was transmitted across all frequencies, in all languages, marking the beginning of a new era. The greatest victory is not in conquering others, but in helping them transcend their limitations. We are all students of the universe, and today we begin learning together.